Andy, I have a question for you. What's the difference between Marxism, socialism, communism, Leninism, capitalism, and whatever else you'd like to add? Of course, anybody could Google such answers or simply use common sense. But I'm interested in your response, which I suspect will differ from that of my friends. Thanks, Andy.
Okay, Anthony. First off, these terms are of limited value in understanding what any particular individual believes in. Right? Limited value, that's the first thing. These terms are so polysemous that not only will you and your friends in America mean something quite different from what me and my friends in Australia mean by them, but from individual to individual they will differ. Okay? So if someone tells you, oh, so-and-so is a socialist, don't think that tells you anything about them at all. Look at the specific things, bundle of things a person says or believes in, and make your own judgment on that. Because these global isms are meaningful, but the meaning is so variable. Now, you've asked me for what I mean by them, so I'll deliver. Starting with capitalism. Capitalism refers to an aspect of social systems where, one, the market is dominant, things are mostly bought and sold, and secondly, that buying in order to sell at a profit is, that is to say, capital, the accumulation of large sums of money through commerce or the hiring of wage labour, investment and so on, where capital is a dominant feature. So it refers to a social system, not a system of beliefs. One really can hardly be for it or against it because it's simply the way the world is at the moment, though that could change. Socialism is a little bit different because it can mean both some kind of society that exists in a far distant future where the world isn't dominated by buying and selling and run by billionaires, but people relate to each other in a more egalitarian kind of way. Or it can refer to a social movement which advocates these things. Now, that said, of course, in America, it means something entirely different, right? But you will know you may know what it means in America. I don't know, but I use socialism in those two ways. Both as being a socialist means you're in favour of more equal relations between people, more democracy, more solidarity between people, the community supporting each other in the community, less individualism and greed, and a social movement that looks forward to such a world. Now, socialism in that sense, referring to a movement, is a very broad category. And within that, there are different currents has emerged. Socialism meaningfully has existed as a political current since the early 19th century. When Marx began doing his theoretical work, so I'm looking to the side because there's this enormous guy standing outside my window built like a tank. Anyway, Marx started his work. He joined an already existing socialist or communist movement. Those two words are at root identical. I don't distinguish between socialist and communist, the socialist society and communist society. They're just two different words for the same thing, right? More democracy, less domination of person by person, less rule by the wealthy, less poverty and so on. But in the middle of the 19th century, Marx joined an already existing movement. And he developed a system of ideas. Sometimes said he made socialism scientific, but he developed a body of writing which has ever since been very influential among socialists. And And you could refer to a Marxist movement, which, so you have Marx himself and his ideas. Sometimes one labels those set of those ideas as Marxism. Probably more correctly, Marxism refers to a whole movement that came after Marx for the 150 years since his life, in which his ideas have been much changed around. So Marxism is now an incredibly diverse set of ideas with very little in common from one person to another. I'm a Marxist, but I have very little in common with lots of people I know who also call themselves Marxists. So even in a very diverse range of views, socialism, Marxism is a very diverse range of views as well. Marxism is not a form of society. It's just a system of views denoting a social movement. You also have anarchism, which arose within socialism as a sort of a different current of thinking, which is more to do, well, it's hard to say the difference, but it's more hostile to the formation of states, more about living in the moment, direct action and so on, than achieving a future society, but that's hard to say. You have also archaic terms like Trotskyism. I was a Trotskyist, but I regard the terms pretty irrelevant now. Leninism, Leninism, it's a funny term, really. You don't find many people call themselves Leninists these days. It's usually used in an abusive sense by socialists or anarchists to refer to people who have a very sort of doctrinaire or centralized vision of how socialism can be achieved, who see the socialist movement as sort of very tightly organized and disciplined, whereas most people see it as a much more diverse kind of thing. The main issue one has in relation to what Americans mean by socialism and communism is this, that someone like Bernie Sanders calls himself a socialist. What he means is he would like America to be like Western Europe. Now, it's obvious that Western Europe are capitalist countries. The market is dominant. You have a society run by big billionaires, right? But nevertheless, there's a system of mutual social support. If you get sick, there's a public health system to look after you. Everyone has the chance to public education. So that's what Bernie Sanders means by socialism. Right? What, of course, a member of the Republican Party means by socialism is really what they're referring to as like the Soviet Union of the Stalin period. For want of a better word, I would refer to that as what you had in the Soviet Union as Stalinism, bureaucratically administered society. State control of things is nothing to do with socialism. But the state running welfare systems is something that has emerged as a kind of compromise with the collapse of capitalism in the interwar periods. That's to say, there's widespread bankruptcies, huge unemployment, and so on. You had a move towards providing welfare and state-run enterprises, and that's a kind of compromise, welfare capitalism, if you like, which is sort of what Bernie Sanders means by socialism, which involves a lot of state management of welfare systems and so on, maintaining infrastructure like roads and rail, hospitals, schools, and so on. Right? Also call it welfare capitalism. And a lot of people who are socialists would be in support of that, but it's not their ideal. Their ideal is that these things should all be run cooperatively by the people working in them with the support of the people using those services. Okay, sorry I can't be clearer than that. It's a very messy business. I hope that's of some help to you.